Hi there, this is David, and welcome to my impression of the new DLC for Strangers Paradise, The Trials of the Dragon King. In short, it's absolute complete bullshit. Not the content that's actually there or the story, because I'm sure it's quite good, I just can't access it. Let me explain. For those of you not in the know, Trials of the Dragon King is a $30 DLC expansion to the original $50 Strangers of Paradise game. In order to play the downloadable content, though, you first have to complete the entirety of the base game. While you might think that this is just a Final Fantasy game in the same vein as the mainline series, it's definitely not. This is much more of a Dark Souls type game with action-based combat where you only control Jack and you have two other party members who go and back you up. I will say this, I actually really enjoyed the base game with its plethora of missions, fun job class system, and dress-me-up Barbie dolls. But I don't really want to talk about the base game here because I do want to avoid spoilers and instead just focus on the DLC and my experience with it. The expansion itself lasts roughly about 3 to 5 hours, with a new storyline focusing on Bahamut and the Warriors of Light, a new weapon type, 3 new job classes, accessories, and the ability to play as somebody other than Jack, as well as the new Bahamut difficulty mode. And that right there, the assumingly optional difficulty mode, is the bane of my existence. Because while there is quite a bit of new content, I personally couldn't reach it. Let's talk about that. I've played pretty much exclusively turn-based JRPGs since the PlayStation 1 era. It's been about 25 years since I've come out of my comfort zone to play anything different. I know the kind of game that I enjoy, and I'm kind of set in my ways in regards to that, and there is nothing wrong with knowing what you like. For the entirety of the normal game, you're allowed to play on any of the 4 different difficulties: the story, action, hard, or chaos modes, each of them with their own little quirks. But if you wanted to, you could complete the entire game on story, which, to be quite honest, was what I did. I plowed through the base game in about 15 hours or so, and I still did run into my fair share of troubles. I died, I got lost, I got frustrated, but I made it through the game, completing everything that there is to complete, and having a pretty fun time with it, even though it was still rather hard for somebody like me who's older, has some slower reaction times, and is definitely not used to Souls-like games. But then, the DLC reared its ugly head. Just to even begin the downloadable content, you first have to turn on Chaos Mode, which is the hardest difficulty level, and then you're immediately thrust into a battle against a Warrior of Light. Admittedly, you can't lose this battle. However, I found myself on the verge of death for the entire fight. It was so frustrating as I was continually knocked back into a wall, slammed, bashed about, and then there was nothing that I could do about it. Every time that I stood up, that stupid Warrior of Light just knocked me back down. It was ridiculous. And I knew during this battle that I was going to be in for a world of hurt if I had to play through the entirety of the DLC on Chaos Mode. Immediately following that horrific battle, you're told that you don't have to play on Chaos anymore. Instead, the hardest mode, Chaos, is now being replaced by an even harder difficulty mode, the Bahamut difficulty, which you are now forced to use for the entirety of the DLC. What kind of sadistic bullshit is this? You're allowed to play through the entire normal game on casual, but then to enjoy the DLC that you've spent your hard-earned money on, I mean, it is $30, that's pretty steep for just some DLC. It's like 60% of the total cost of the actual game itself, for God's sakes. But now, you're forced to play on the most brutally unfair difficulty mode that I've ever seen in my entire life? This is such a slap in the face. But I thought to myself, okay, David, for the sake of the viewers, you can do this. They wouldn't make this whole thing super hard. There's gotta be at least one easy place that I can find a level up or something. I mean, I had level 200 equipment and the mission levels were 205, so it shouldn't be that bad. So I went into the Cave of the Earth, which was the first dungeon that you could go into, the first 4 Fiend dungeon. I saved my game, and I came across the very first enemy. It was me and my 2 partners against one little trash mob. But guess who got trashed? Me. Over and over and over again. I think that I died to that one trash mob like 5 times. After I finally defeated him, I used up all of my potions, so I went back to the save crystal to replenish, only for that monster to respawn and then slaughter me again. I knew for a fact that there'd be no way that I could make any sort of meaningful progression without sitting there for hours fighting one trash mob and hoping and praying for a good equipment drop. I then left the mission, tried out the Sea Shrine, which was even harder because there you're ganged up on by 4 different enemies and they resist all your stuff. So I left and I went to the Gurgu Volcano, where I made a little tiny bit more progress, but still died horribly after the very first bat. I mean, give me a break. This is not fun, and quite honestly, it's just such crap to players like me who don't have a year and a day to sit around and get good, or who have kids, or who work full-time jobs, or who may be disabled in some way. Accessibility in gaming is more important than ever, and locking your paid DLC behind another sort of paywall, or in this case a skill wall, is just utter garbage, and a behavior that I, for one, cannot condone. To me, it's just completely unplayable. It feels so grindy insofar as you're forced to go back to the previous 4 Fiends dungeons, spend anima shards just to unlock the stages, then go in on the highest difficulty setting whenever you originally plowed through those 4 dungeons on the lowest. And also, recycling dungeons in a DLC, that's a big no-no. And I know right now that all the commenters are going to come in and say, you just need to get good. But I'm going to call bullshit on that too. Game developers need to realize that not everybody's 15 years old anymore. Not everybody can dedicate every single waking hour to play these games. Story mode exists for a reason. It exists for people like me who just want to relax after a long, stressful day at work and have a good time, not add more stress to my life. I'm really quite angry about this just nonsensical decision that they've implemented. And maybe if they go back one day and they fix it and allow you to play through the DLC under the original difficulty modes, I'll give it another shot. But as of right now, I ain't doing it. So that's it for my thoughts and impressions of the Strangers of Paradise Trials of the Dragon King DLC. How do you feel about Square's decision to lock it behind a difficulty wall? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video and what I do here on the channel, please consider heading on over to Twitch for streaming fun, checking out Patreon for exclusive videos and early access to my content, or coming on over to my Discord to chat and hang out. The links to them all can be found in the video description. This has been David. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.